Karina baby, today is the 10th of September and you are 6 years and 5 months old today. Let's take a look at our book for the 10th of September. 10. Sneezing. Sneezing on Monday, meet a witch. Sneeze on Tuesday, fall in a ditch. Sneeze on Wednesday, fly to the moon. Sneeze on Thursday, whistle a tune. Sneeze on Friday, make a wish. Sneeze on Saturday, dance with a fish. But sneeze on Sunday, that's really clever. Good luck, we'll stay with you forever and ever. Sunday is a clever day to sneeze, according to this poem. Karina baby, I just love you and I just miss you so incredibly much. I can't wait to see you. Let's do... Here is the human story of Mark Twain. Of the Americans' most popular authors, Twain used his experience as a boy growing up in Hannibal, Missouri, as memorable for his writings. He meddled in the character of Tom Sawyer after himself and used his memories of friends and relatives for other characters, including Aunt Polly, Huck Finn, and Becky Thwaites. Twain wrote about these and other colorful characters in The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. He also described his experiences as a riverboat pilot in the book Life on the Missouri, The Cat and the Painkiller. There he is. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer tell the story of a boy who grew up in a small town in the Mississippi River about 100 years ago. Tom and his friends really did have adventures. They got lost in the cave, they were witnesses to a murder trial, and at one time they even disappeared on an island in the river. During all this, Tom lived with his Aunt Polly, who at times found Tom's shenanigans more than she could handle. Tom's mind had drifted away from the secret troubles. It had found a new and weighty matter to interest itself about. Becky Thwaites had stopped coming to school. Tom had shrugged with his pride a few days and tried to whistle her down the wind, but failed. He began to find himself hanging around her father's house nights and feeling very miserable. She was ill. What if she should die? There was a distraction in that thought. No, he no longer took an interest in war, nor even in piracy. He put his hoop away and his bat. There was no joy in them any more. His aunt became concerned. She began to try all manners of remedies on him. She was one of those people who, an infatuation with patient medicines and all newfanglings methods of practicing health or meddling in. She was an introverted experimenter in these things. When something fresh is on the line came out, she was in a fever right away to try it. Not on herself, for she never ailed, but on somebody else that came handy. She was a subscriber for all the health protocols. The solemn ignorance they were inflicted with was breath of her nostrils. She never observed that her health journals or the correct month correspondingly set up everything they had recommended the month before. She was as simple-hearted and honest as the day is long, and so she was an easy victim. The winter torment was knew now, and Tom's low condition was a windfall to her. She had him out in daylight every morning, stood him up at the woodshed, and drowned him with a dolge of cold water. Then she scrubbed him down with a towel like a flea, and so brought him to. Then she rolled him up in a wet sheet and put him away under blankets till she sweated his soul clean, and the yellow stains out it came through his pores, as Tom said. But notwithstanding all this, the boy grew more and more melancholy, and pale and dejected. She added hot baths, sitz baths, shower baths, and plunges. The boy remained in dismal as a hare's. She began to assist the water with some slime oatmeal diet and blister plasters. She calculated his capacity as she would judge and fill him every day with quick curl ales. Tom had become indifferent to prescription by this time. The phase filled the old lady's heart with consideration. The indifference must be broken up at any cost. Now she heard of painkiller for the first time. She ordered a lot at once and tested it, and was very filled with gratitude. It was simply fire in a liquid form that dropped the water temperature and everything else, and pinned her faith to painkiller. So she gave Tom a teaspoon and watched with the deepest anxiety for the result. Her troubles were instantly at rest, her soul at peace again, for the indifference was broken up. The boy could not have shown a wilder, hardest interest. She had built a fire under him. Tom felt that it was time to wake up. This sort of life might be romantic enough. It is blighted condition. But in the getting to have too little sentiment and too much distraction variety about it. So he thought over various plans for relief, and finally hit upon that of professing to the fond of painkiller. He asked for it so often that he became a nuisance, and his aunt ended by telling him to help himself and quit bothering her. If it had been Sid, she would have no misgivings. To allow her delight, but since it was Tom, she watched the bottle clandestinely. She found that the medicine did really diminish, but it did not occur to her that the boy was mending the health of a crack in the sitting room floor with it. One day Tom was in the act of dosing the crack when his aunt's yellow cat came in, along purring, eyeing, and teaspooning adventurously, and begging for a taste. Tom said, "Don't ask for it unless you want it, Peter." But Peter signified that he did want it. "You better make sure." Peter was sure. So he isn't taking the painkiller, he is putting the painkiller into the crack on the floor. And there's Peter the cat, who's coming in to look after him. Now you've asked for it, and I'll give it to you, because there ain't anything mean about me. But if you find you don't like it, you must blame anybody else but your own self. Peter was agreeable, so Tom pried his mouth open and poured down the painkiller. Peter sprung a couple of yards in the air, and then delivered a war whip and set off round and round the room, banging against furniture, upsetting the flower pots, and making general havoc. Next he rose to his hind feet and pounced around in a fancy of enjoyment. He was head over his shoulders, and his voice proclaimed his unappeasable happiness. Then he went tearing around the house again, spreading chaos and disturbances in his path. Aunt Polly entered in time to see him throw a few double somersaults delivered in finely mighty harem, and sail through the open window, carrying the rest of his flower pots with him. The old lady stood petrified with astonishment, peering over her glasses. Tom lay on the floor, expiring with laughter. There he goes. There she is behind him. There is the cat destroying the house. Tom, what on earth ails that cat? I don't know, Auntie, gasped the boy. Why, I never seen anything like it. What did make him act so? Deed, I don't know, Aunt Polly. Cats always act so when they're having a good time. They do they? That was something in the tone that made Tom apprehensive. Yes'm. That is, I believe they do. You do. Yes'm. The old lady was bending down. Tom watched with interest, emphasized by anxiety. Too little he divined her drift. The hand of the tall-tale spoon was visible under the bed valance. Aunt Polly took it, held it up. Tom winced and dropped his eyes. Aunt Polly raised him by the usual handle, his ear, and cracked his hand suddenly with her thimble. Now, sir, what do you want to treat that poor dumb beast so for? I done it out of pity for him, because he hadn't any aunt. Hadn't any aunt, you numbskull. What has that got to do with it? Heaps, because if he'd had once she'd brunt him out herself, she'd roasted him bowels out of him, 'thout any more feeling than if he was a human. Aunt Polly felt a sudden pang of remorse. This was putting the thing in a new light. What was curtly to a cat might be cruelly to a boy, too. So began the softness. She felt sorry. Her eyes watered a little, and she put her hand on Tom's head and said, in the gentlest possible way she could manage, I was meaning for the best, Tom, and Tom did do you good. Tom looked up in her face with a prescribable twinkle peeking through his gravity. I know you were meaning for the best, Auntie, and so was I with Peter. I done him good, too. I never seen him get around so since. Oh, go long with you, Tom, before you aggravate me again. And you try to see if you can't be a good boy for once, and you needn't take any more medicine. So there she is, trying to console her nephew. Oh, that's it. Karina, baby, I love you, and I miss you. Painkillers, I honestly don't believe are the way to go. We know in our society today that that could lead to a pretty awful life. Mama doesn't take any painkillers for anything, even when they get prescribed every once in a while. Like, you know, I'll get the prescription just in case, but I've never actually taken them. Because you never know. Some people can get addicted from just drinking one drink. Someone can get addicted from being on a medication that is an opiate and they take it. An opiate is something called a narcotic, and it's something that can play with your brain, and it's something that you can get what's called addicted to something. And an addiction is just like, oh, I really like this sweet cake, and you know, you eat a lot of sweet cakes at once, and you know, or like, oh, I really want to just eat these Slim Jims, and you eat all the Slim Jims. That's, you know, if you do it in all in one sitting, it could be considered something that you like too much. It's kind of like an addiction. You like it too much. Don't ever want you to drink or do drugs or any kind of drugs. I know some things are becoming legal now, but they're not good for you as a human being. I want you to be able to be within yourself and be yourself without becoming addicted to something else. Because you are an amazing human being and you can be your own good company. It's good to be your own good company. Find something that you like to do by yourself. Find stuff that you like to do with other people. But always be your own best friend too. Love on yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. Absolutely forgive everyone and anything around you, because if you hold on to something that's negative, it can make your heart go cold or go hard, and you don't want that. You want your heart to be open and loving towards everybody no matter what. And it doesn't even matter really how someone treats you, it's how you decide to treat other people as well. That forgiveness is amazing, and it does amazing things for you. You never want somebody to own you, so you never want to not be forgiving. So you can see that Tom Sawyer in this book, who is Mark Twain, forgave his aunt, and the aunt forgave him for feeding the stuff to the cat. She didn't know what she was giving him. She thought that she was helping him. Karina, baby, I love you so much. Sit with yourself today. Look inside yourself. Be with yourself. Ask yourself how you're doing today. If you're not having a good day, there's always tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. Don't be afraid to try new things and to do fun things. Just don't hurt yourself, though. I love you. Like, hurt yourself as in like taking a painkiller or taking drugs like that. Your grandfather walked into a hospital with a headache, and because he didn't take any painkillers, he knew exactly where his head hurt, and he didn't know what was wrong, but they did all the testing for him and they found out what he had. And it was because he didn't do any drugs that he knew what was going on with his own body. It's important to know what's going on with your body. Let's do row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Karina, baby, that song resonates with people as they get older, because your boat is your body. And no one said this life had to be incredibly hard. Just row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. This life is so short. It's so short, so make it as loving and as gentle as possible. Make it as easy for yourself as possible. Don't forget that you can take on new challenges, no matter what that challenge is, but this life is short. And you are loved. You are so loved. Be gentle and loving towards yourself and others, because this life is short. I love you and I miss you and I can't wait to see you.